She lost her father at a tender age and started her life as a struggling young girl. But then she climbed her way to the top of the ladder of Hollywood fame. But the journey was filled with endless heartbreaks, dark depression, and abusive marriages. This is the untold story of Ava Gardner. Ava Lavina Gardner was born on December 24, 1922 in Grabtown, North Carolina. Her parents, Jonas Gardner and Mary Gardner, were simple tobacco sharecroppers with barely enough to fend for their children. After Ava's birth, tragedy hit the family and they lost all their properties to an unexpected agricultural depression. So her father and mother took odd jobs to continue to put food on the table. Mary worked as a cook and a housekeeper, while Jonas worked at the sawmill. It was a tough time for the family, but things were about to get even worse. Jonas got bronchitis, and with no money for treatment, he died a painful death. With the breadwinner gone, Ava's family relocated to Northridge in North Carolina, where she would finish her high school education. After that, she started secretarial classes, but life had other plans for her. Ava paid a visit to her married sister Beatrice in New York in the summer of 1940, and this marked a turning point in her life. While in New York, Beatrice's husband, who was a photographer, took a portrait of her as a gift to her mother. He was so pleased with the results that he hung a copy of the portrait in the front window of his studio. Bernard Doohan, a man who camouflages himself as an agent for MGM but uses the opportunity to deceive and take on girls, saw the portrait, and Ava became his next target. The receptionist, well aware of Doohan's tactics, rebuked him, and before he left he said somebody should send her info to the MGM, and Beatrice's husband did, and that was it. In a few weeks, Ava was standing before a panel of MGM executives who interviewed her, but her strong southern accent was too thick for them to understand, but they would offer her a standard contract stating that they were interested in her looks alone. But Ava was ambitious, so she worked hard with her dialogue and singing coach, who the studio assigned to her. One of Ava's first roles was as a background dancer in 1941 film Fancy Answers. Her appearance was brief and uncredited, providing her with very little exposure. Then she was offered her first part as a walk-on in the 1942 romantic comedy film We Were Dancing. But her big break would not come until 1946 with her role in Robert Siodmak's film noir The Killer. Ava was finally at the patch she has been praying for, but love and drugs would bring it all down to ruins. Ava was still new to MGM, but the next thing that was about to happen to her almost crushed the studio. On Ava's first day on the job, she met Mickey Rooney. At the time, he was 21 and has been MGM's biggest star for over 3 years. Rooney was charmed by Ava's beauty and innocence, so he asked her out. Ava did not accept, but Mickey persisted. Here is one of the biggest actors in Hollywood showering attention on a simple North Carolina girl. It was only a matter of time before she was bought in. They started dating, but Rooney wanted to move pretty quickly, so he pushed for marriage. Ava refused, asking that he will wait till she turned 19, but Mickey wasn't interested, and MGM hated the whole show. Why do you ask? Well, Rooney had scored himself a solid fan base of females who adored him, and his marriage to Ava would mean bad business. MGM had reluctantly signed Ava Gardner, but here she was within a few months on the job, causing a lot of trouble. How did they handle it? Well, just know that in the end, they let Ava keep her job and even offered her a raise. But Ava was almost crushed by depression. Ava's first marriage was with Rooney Mickey. The studio, seeing that Mickey was bent on having his way, would endure the union by doing damage control. They made them keep their union a secret, and their wedding was to happen far away from Hollywood in a small town in Santa Barbara. MGM's problem was finally over, but Gardner's own had just begun. Rooney introduced Ava to the dark habits. He was an alcoholic, and soon they would start spending most of their nights in clubs and wild parties. Mickey became a bully. According to Ava, he was a mean drunkard, and she wasn't any saint herself either. She made fun of his height, and their union was already heading to a crash. She filed for a divorce in 1943 on the grounds of extreme mental cruelty. Gardner was kind enough to protect Rooney's on-screen image by walking away peacefully, and the studio would appreciate her generosity with the raise. After Ava and Rooney separated, it became billionaire Howard Hughes' time to shine. At that time, Howard was in his Playboy years. He wanted something with the actress, but Ava had learned her lesson with Mickey. She wanted someone more mature, and that's how she started dating band leader Artie Shaw. Everything seemed perfect except that Shaw was already married, but he divorced his wife to get married to Ava. and it was only after that she would discover that Shaw and Rooney had more similarities than she had thought. In the end, they separated after 1 year of being together. Ava's third and last marriage was with Frank Sinatra. Frank, like his predecessor Shaw, would divorce his wife to marry his mistress. Frank was perfect, too perfect, and that became Ava's problem. According to her, marriage with Frank was like being with a woman, as he was so gentle and soft. Ava wrote in her autobiography that Frank was the love of her life, but Sinatra's career struggles during their marriage put further strain on their relationship. Rumors circulated that actress Lana Turner was romantically involved with Frank Sinatra. This intensified the feud between Ava and Lana Turner. The two actresses were often pitted against one another in the press, with stories comparing their beauty, talent, and relationships. The two actresses were at the height of their fame, and their rivalry was fueled by the media and the public's fascination with their personal lives. Hence, Frank and Ava's union wouldn't last. They divorced in 1957, but they stayed friends until her death. But the most devastating moment of her life is yet to come. Ava Gardner did not have any children, and this was not entirely her wish. In her autobiography, Ava revealed shocking secrets about how MGM made her abort 2 of her babies during her marriage with Frank Sinatra. MGM had all sorts of penalty clauses about their stars having babies. She writes in her autobiography, another reason why Ava might not have wanted children was that she was in a bad marriage. According to the book, she wanted children, but not if she couldn't assure them of a stable home. Ava Gardner was known for her strong personality, but this caused headfirst clashes a lot of times with many Hollywood titans. During the filming of the movie Pawnee Junction, 1956, she clashed with director George Cukor. Cukor was known for his meticulous approach to filmmaking and often demanding multiple takes and perfection from his actors. This clashed with Ava's more laid-back and spontaneous approach to acting. The tension between them escalated, leading to a heated argument on the sets. At one point, Ava reportedly threw a glass of champagne at Cukor's face in a fit of anger. Despite their clashes, they managed to complete the film, which went on to be a success. Hollywood expected its stars to portray a specific image both on and off screen. For Ava, this meant appearing as the glamorous, sophisticated, and untouchable femme fatale. This expectation often conflicted with Ava's true nature, and she was known to be down-to-earth, genuine, and unpretentious. The disconnect between her public image and her true self was a true source of frustration and unhappiness. This constant media scrutiny to have perfection took a toll on her self-esteem and body image. Ava admitted in interviews that she struggled with her self-image and felt insecure about her looks despite being one of the most beautiful actresses of her time. This internal battle caused her significant emotional distress. To cope with the pressures of fame and the expectations of Hollywood, Ava often turned to alcohol as a means of escape. Her struggles with alcoholism were well documented and contributed to her emotional turmoil. But the most touching moment of her life came on her deathbed. "I'm tired." These were the last words of Ava before she gave up the ghost after a long battle with pneumonia. Before that, Gardner had an elective hysterectomy, and what followed was a series of strokes that left her paralyzed. All those years of heavy smoking and drinking were taking a toll on her health. In the late 1980s, when her first husband Mick Rooney visited her on her sick bed, she told him that she was tired and she was considering suicide. She finally died in January 1990 of pneumonia and fibrosing alveolitis at the age of 67 in her home in London. Though she was still in touch with all her ex-husbands before her death, none of them were present at her funeral. Ava's legacy in the industry lives beyond her. The American Institute ranked her number 25 on its greatest female screen legends of classic American cinema in 1999. She has a museum named after her in Smithfield, North Carolina. If you liked this video on Ava Gardner, please watch the video on the end screen and check out our other videos of our channel about beautiful actresses of yesteryear.